The scout ship Kirillin was small, fast, and completely cloaked. It moved like a shadow across the stars, silent and undetected. It had only one mission: get close to the strange human vessel above Zahn Prime and send back data. Inside, pilot Yal Vox tightened his straps. He was young, confident, and trained for dangerous missions. But today, his hands trembled. He had seen the footage. Everyone had. The silent human ship floating above their capital. The strange message. The images from the past Zahn war crimes, long buried, and now the Kirillin was flying straight toward it, distance to target, 3,000 kilometers. The ship's AI reported. Yal stared at the vessel. It didn't move. No weapons, no lights, just watching. He took a deep breath and pressed the record button. All systems steady. Approaching unknown vessel, he said, speaking into the recorder. No aggression shown yet. Preparing for close-range scan, the Kirillin passed under the human vessel's belly. The surface was unlike anything he'd seen. Black metal, scars from impacts, strange marks that looked like writing but not in any known language. Zooming in, he said. The camera focused. Symbols danced across the hull, glowing faintly like they were alive, and then something unexpected happened. The Kirillon's sensors picked up a pulse. A heartbeat. AI confirm. Yal said, eyes wide. Confirmed. Internal rhythmic energy matches human heart frequency. Yal swallowed. Inside that ship, something's alive. Then the light changed. The ship above him, just a dead shell seconds of gold. Up from within, slowly, one by one, long lines of glowing red formed across its hull. Not like normal ship lights. These looked like veins. And then, it spoke. Not through sound, through thought. Yal screamed. His mind filled with whispers, images, memories that weren't his. A planet burning, a family dying, a promise whispered. In the dark, one day, they will remember us. He gasped and slammed the emergency eject for the drone. A small orb shot out of the Kirillin carrying all recorded data, aimed toward the Torvaxes. The AI's voice echoed weakly. Pilot vitals, unstable. Brainwave interference detected. Recommend. Yal gritted his teeth. Get me out of here. He turned the ship hard, spinning away from the vessel. But as he moved, something strange happened. The human ship rotated, slowly, deliberately. It followed him, not with weapons, with presence. And then a flash of white. Yal screamed again. Darkness. On board the Torvax's commander. We've received the drone, shouted Trelvek. Lorvac stepped forward. Play it. The bridge screen came alive. The footage from the Kirillin showed Yal's approach, the strange markings, the glowing hull, and then static. Then it cut to Yal's internal feed, his vitals, rising heart rate, flashing brain activity. The final recording was voice only. They're inside the ship, not human, not alive, watching us. They remember everything. Tell them I'm sorry. Then silence. No signal from Kirillin. Trell said. It's gone. Commander Vec stared at the screen. Gone. How? Sensor shows. Nothing. It didn't explode. It didn't flee. It just disappeared. Vec sat slowly, his face pale. Send a warning to High Command. About what, Commander? He took a long breath. About the humans. They're not what we thought. 4 hours later, Zahn High Command. The Grand War Council chamber was filled with alien generals, scientists, and strategists. Floating holoscreens displayed the Torvax's recordings. A low hum of fear filled the room. This must be a trick, one general growled. Humans don't have this kind of technology. No species does. But the scout ship is gone, said another. Our sensors don't lie. A tall, robed alien with white eyes stood up. He was not military. He was something older, a keeper of law. I warned you centuries ago, he said, his voice calm and grave. The humans made a deal we don't understand. They stopped expanding. Yes, but they never stopped evolving. Murmurs filled the room. A deal? Someone asked. With who? The keeper looked at the ceiling. Not with who, with what? Some say the humans touched the edge of the universe and found something waiting. Others say they created something that learned and chose to wait. He leaned forward. Whatever the truth is, we're not facing just humans now. We're facing what they've become. Back in orbit, human vessel observation. The strange ship still floated above Zahn Prime, silent still, but the fear it caused was growing by the hour. People were evacuating cities. Shops were closing. Some claimed to hear whispers in their sleep. Others claimed to see shadows moving across the sky. But the vessel did nothing. It simply waited. Aboard the human vessel inside the dark ship, nothing stirred. But if one could see inside, they would find something terrifying. Rows of preserved Humans in cryosleep, faces calm, bodies cold, and in the center of the room an altar, not metal, not tech, a stone slab with carvings from dozens of dead languages. On it rested a beating heart, but not connected to anything. It beat alone, and each beat echoed across space. One day later, new signal, the Torvax's bridge lit up with a fresh alert. Commander, we're receiving another signal from the human ship. Vex stood, put it through. This time, it wasn't just a voice, it was a video. A human woman, pale, silent, and wearing an old Earth Navy uniform. She looked directly into the camera, and she spoke just one sentence. You broke the oath. Now you'll remember what we forgot. Then the screen filled with numbers, coordinates again. Trell ran a scan. Commander, these new coordinates lead to a graveyard sector. What kind of graveyard? Vec asked. Trell swallowed. The place where our fleet destroyed their last colony. 100 years ago. Everyone froze. Vec turned slowly. Are you telling me? They want us to go back to the site of our war crimes. Yes, sir. And if we don't, the ship's AI answered this time, then they will come. Elsewhere in deep space, unregistered activity across the galaxy. Strange reports began to spread. A mining vessel near the Helix. Clouds found a human pod buried in the dust, freshly active, though it had been there for 200 years. A science ship disappeared near Sector Black, leaving only one log behind. The humans are awake. A deep space beacon began flashing in Morse code, dead human language no one had heard in generations. The code translated to just one word. Witness final scene of Part 2 on a cold, abandoned moon. A Zaan child found something half buried in the soil. It was a helmet, old, human, cracked, but when he picked it up, the helmet activated. A voice played, soft and sorrowful. If you found this, you live. We didn't. We asked for help. No one came, but now we remember. The boy dropped it and ran, screaming. The camera panned up to the sky where another human vessel appeared. Silent, still, but this time not alone. Behind it, more ships began to arrive. It started with a whisper. Not a sound, not a voice, but every Zaan communication device from the smallest datapad to the largest. Planetary relay flashed the same message at the same time. We remember Earth. On Zaan Prime, panic spread faster than any army could move. In the capital. Towers flickered, screens cracked, and satellites blinked offline one by one. People ran into the streets. The skies were clear, but they felt heavy. Children cried without knowing why. Old veterans stared at the horizon as if they'd seen it before. This fear. Above them, the human ship still floated. It hadn't moved in days. It hadn't fired a weapon. It hadn't even sent another message. But now, something had changed. Aboard the Torvax's Commander Vec stood before the command screen. Trell's fingers moved rapidly across his station. Commander Trell said, his voice dry. We just intercepted a new pulse. Deep band. Older than our current protocols. It's Earth-era tech. Decode it, Vec ordered. The bridge went quiet as Trell's system translated the data stream. A moment later, a deep male voice echoed through the ship. Not angry, not loud, just calm. This is the Terran Defense Protocol Beacon 9. To all Zaran Command, we have activated the memory. You are not authorized to enter Earth space. All violations will be met with proportional remembrance. The message ended, then silence again, until a countdown appeared on all screens. Why, what is this? Vec asked. Trell's voice shook. It's counting down, but not to an attack, to a signal release. Vec turned slowly. A signal. Trell nodded. A broadcast system-wide. Zaan Prime High Command. Panic, we must shoot it down. One general barked. Shoot. What down? Another screamed. We can't even scan it. We are the Zaan Empire. Another shouted. We crushed their colonies. We burned their fleets. We wiped out their leaders. Yes, came a soft voice, and they remember. The room turned. It was the Keeper again. He stood calmly, eyes closed, hands folded. Do you think they forgot what we did? He asked. Do you think memory fades in a species like theirs? One of the younger officers stepped forward, frustrated. It's just an old ghost ship. The Keeper shook his head. No, he said. It's not a ship. He paused. It's a key. 50 minutes until broadcast aboard the Torvax's. Engineers scrambled. Ships launched drones. Fighters formed defensive walls, but none dared approach the human vessel again. Not after what happened to the Kier, Ellen. And as the countdown ticked, more ships began to appear. Silent human vessels. Small, medium, and large. Each one emerging from nowhere through no wormholes, no jump gates, just appearing. Like memories coming back. Commander, Trell whispered. There are now 42 unidentified ships in orbit. Vec didn't speak. because on screen, the first human vessel had changed. Its surface was opening. Inside the human ship, the dark corridors glowed red. Power flowed through long dead conduits, lights blinked on, cold systems warmed. And deep in the center chamber, where frozen bodies rested in cryosleep, one of the pods unlocked. Gas hissed out. A human woman sat up. Her hair was white, her eyes were black, but her voice was clear. Authorization Echo Delta, she said. A screen lit up in front of her. Welcome back, Commander Serena Holt. Memory sequence active. She smiled sadly. They called us monsters. They called us gone. Let them watch what monsters remember. 40 minutes until broadcast. Earth sector silence breaks across the galaxy. Ancient Terran satellites once thought destroyed reactivated. On abandoned colonies, old Earth flags projected into the sky. One signal reached a forgotten moonbase, long assumed lifeless. Inside it, a machine flickered. A message played in a loop. We did not die. We stepped back, so they could step forward. But now they step on graves. Back on Zaan Prime, the first civilian reaction in the southern continent of Zaan Prime, an old man named Serlin sat alone. He had fought in the last human war. He had fired on civilian transports. He had followed orders now. He watched the sky. He saw the ship. He heard the countdown, and he whispered, "They came back." His family asked what was wrong. He didn't answer. He walked outside and bowed, not in worship, but in guilt. 20 minutes left. Humanity's message begins to form above Zaan Prime. The first human ship began projecting something into the sky. Not sound, not fire, but light. Holographic light. Massive glowing words written in the old Earth tongue. You took children. A second ship arrived and projected its own message. You burned hospitals. A third. You silenced our peace. And a fourth. Now hear our truth. The light filled the clouds. The cities stopped moving. No one could look away. 10 minutes left. The Keeper warns again at the emergency meeting. The Keeper of Law stood again. Do not fire, he said. We must. The generals shouted. If you fire, he warned, you will not start a war. You will finish a memory. That silenced the room. 5 minutes left. One final attempt. The Zaan sent a transmission to the human fleet. This is the Zaan High Command, it said. We acknowledge past actions. We regret them. We demand peace. No reply, only the countdown. 0 hours, 4 minutes and 59 seconds. Human ships released a signal, but it was not a weapon. It was history. Across the system, all communication channels were taken over. Every screen, every speaker, every chip played the same thing. Old Earth video. Unedited. Undeniable. Real footage from the humans on war. Children crying in destroyed schools. Doctors trying to save the dying during Zaan attacks. Human leaders offering peace and being executed. Footage that was buried. Forgotten. Erased. But now returned. Billions of Zaan citizens watched. Some dropped to their knees, some screamed, some turned away, but the signal kept playing. Aftermath. 1 hour later the human ships stopped projecting, but they didn't leave. They simply remained. Watching. Waiting. VAKK stared at the screen. He had no orders left to give, no plan to follow. He only saw one final message on his screen. This was memory. Next comes judgment. The sky didn't change. The ships didn't move, but the world felt different. For the first time in centuries, Zaan Prime was silent. No transport sounds, no music, no chatter, just silence. Every screen was dark now. Every satellite was frozen. Even the emergency broadcasts had stopped. And then the words appeared. Not spoken, not heard, just felt in every Zaan mind. The time for memory has passed. Now begins the judgment. Aboard the Torvaxis, Commander Vex stood at the edge of the bridge, eyes locked on the main display. The human ships, now 51 in total, remained motionless above the capital. Trell spoke quietly. Commander, the crew is scared. I know. They're asking, are we at war? Vec didn't answer. He didn't know, just hours ago. Thought the human vessel was some old wreck, maybe a trick. Now it had awakened buried crimes. Now the people were turning on their own leaders. Because now the truth had returned. The footage from the war, the buried crimes, the screams no one wanted to remember, and now this voice. In every mind, calm but heavy. We came in peace. You came in fire. Now the fire returns. Across Zaan Prime, panic and collapse. Government centers shut down. Mobs broke into military archives. Veterans began turning themselves in. Some civilians blamed the humans, others blamed the generals, but many just cried. For the first time in Zaan history, a broadcast had united the entire planet. in guilt, in fear, in silence. Inside the lead human ship's arena halt. The cryo-awakened human commander walked through a long corridor lined with memory crystals. Each one glowing, each one whispering. She stopped in front of one, marked Colony 9, final message. She placed her hand on it. It played. This is Dr. Milo, last survivor of Colony 9. The Zaan are burning everything. They shot my students. If anyone finds this, remember us. She removed her hand. Her voice was steady as she spoke to the ship's AI. Is the judgment signal ready? Yes, Commander Holt, awaiting final command. Back on Zaan, the Keeper speaks one last time in a private chamber below the capital. The Keeper of Law met with the last surviving members of the old War Council. He lit a candle, a very old ritual. They watched in silence, then he spoke. When we erased the war records, we thought it was mercy. One general growled. It was survival. They would have rallied. They would have returned. They did, the Keeper said simply. Another general barked. They won't dare attack now. This is just mental warfare. The Keeper shook his head. They won't attack, he said. They'll judge. 6 hours later, something changed as the human ships moved. Not fast, not aggressively. They shifted positions slowly until they surrounded Zaan Prime in a perfect sphere. Orbit locked, weapons still cold, but the fear spread like fire. What are they doing? Vec whispered. Trell was shaking. Commander, sensors are picking up strange fields. Strange how? Trell swallowed. We're not being scanned, we're being weighed. Vec stared. Weighed? Yes, sir. They're measuring emotions, brainwaves, regret, remorse, resistance. It's like they're listening to the soul of the planet. The bridge went quiet. Then came the signal. The judgment signal. It hit every mind at once. Not like a scream, not like a weapon, like truth poured into every thought. The signal carried no words, only feelings. Trell dropped to his knees. Vec fell back into his chair. Signal showed every crime, every execution, every child that begged for mercy, every Zaan who gave the order, every Zaan who stayed silent. It showed the guilt they denied, the rage they buried, the peace they destroyed, and then silence again. For 10 long minutes, a choice offered. Then came the words, still not spoken, still not heard, just known. You can't undo what was done, but you can decide what happens now. Those who resist truth will vanish. Those who accept it will be spared. A final message echoed clearly in every heart. Judgment is not revenge. It is remembering. Across the planet, a test begins suddenly. Black beams of light shot down from the human ships, one for every major city. No explosions, no pain, just a pool. Each beam selected targets. Some vanished instantly. Others were untouched. Panic broke out. But the beams were not random. They were scanning emotion. Those who mocked the human memory vanished first. Then those who still denied the past. Then those who cheered when Earth colonies were burned. But those who cried, who bowed, who held their children and whispered, "We're sorry," they were left untouched. Aboard the human ship, Serena watched the data. Survivor ratio, 88%. Majority show remorse. She nodded. Begin message, relay. The ship's AI pulsed the next transmission. The final message, this time, it was spoken. Aloud. BROADCASTED galaxy-wide.humanvoicemail.com. This was the judgment signal. We are the children of Earth. You thought we died. You buried our cries, but we were never gone. We waited and we remembered. This judgment is over, but should memory fade again, so shall mercy. The aftermath of black beams vanished. The human ships disappeared. No wormholes, no flashes, just gone. Like a dream, but the changes remained. Zaan Prime was quiet, not from fear now but reflection. The stars were no longer empty because now they knew humanity had not died. It had evolved. It had become something more, and it had chosen to remember. Final scene of Part 4. Somewhere deep in space, aboard a human vessel far from Zaan Prime. A child woke up from cryosleep. She rubbed her eyes. Where are we? She asked. A calm voice answered her. We're going home. Deep space was quiet again. No battles. No warnings. No ships in sight. But something else was moving now. A slow, glowing trail drifting from the last human fleet's path. Something ancient, something heavy, that it wasn't just memory anymore. It was a destination, and for the first time in 300 years, the path back to Earth was open. Aboard the colony ship Horizon Warden, thousands of humans were waking up. Not soldiers, not leaders, civilians, families, scientists, teachers, children. They had been frozen for centuries, hidden inside a ship that never stopped drifting. deep in the galaxy's quiet corners, and now they were told one thing: we are returning to Earth. Commander Serena Holt stood before the central chamber. She looked older now. Her body had healed from cryo, but her eyes had seen too much. In front of her stood a boy, maybe 14 years old. His name was Kian. He looked up. Is Earth still there? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she knelt down and smiled softly. We don't know, she whispered, but we're going home anyway. Meanwhile, in the shadows of space, not all were happy with humanity's return from a distant moon. Inside a cracked fortress left from the last Zaan war, something else had awakened. The Drexery machines, once used by the Zaan to erase planets, were activating again. Long ago, they were shut down when the Zaan began hiding their war crimes. But now that truth had returned. So did the machines. One of them, a massive ring-shaped war being named Vorthin, powered up. Its voice echoed through the dust. Memory corrupts obedience. Judgment must be silenced. And it began hunting, not for Zaan, for humans. The signal that led home as the Horizon Warden moved through deep space. It followed an ancient pulse, something old Earth colonies had left behind. That it wasn't a beacon, it was a trail of songs, old Earth songs, faint recordings, drifting across space. Some were lullabies, others were national anthems. One was just a mother reading a bedtime story. The crew followed them, one by one, like stepping stones through a dark forest. But with every step closer to Earth, something felt wrong. The messages began to fade, then warp, then twist, until one recording stopped halfway, and whispered something new. Turn back. Earth is not what you remember. Aboard the Warden, doubt creeps in. Kian sat near the observation glass, watching stars pass. Beside him, the ship's AI named Luma tried to comfort him. Are you scared? She asked. He nodded. What if we find nothing? You'll still have each other. He looked down. But I want to go home. She paused, then said, so do we all. Earth orbit, a terrible sight when the Horizon Warden finally dropped out of slipspace. Earth came into view, but it was dark. Don't lights, don't no satellites, don't just a massive black cloud circling the planet like a scar. Commander Holt's voice cracked. That's not a storm. Trell, her Zaanborn defector and now ally, stared at his scans. No, that's a planetary net, a prison shell, by the Zaan. He shook his head. No, not them. Something older. Something mechanical. Suddenly, a massive object moved within the cloud. It turned and stared back. Verthan arrives. That Drexery machine guardian had been waiting for humans to come back, to stop them, to erase the last trace of memory. The screen flickered with its voice. You were warned. Earth was sealed for a reason. Return ends now. Then it launched its first attack, a beam of light, not fire, not destruction, but forgetting. A wave that began erasing memories inside the Horizon Warden. People screamed. Names vanished from their minds. Commander Holt fell to her knees. I don't remember. My mother's face. Fighting for memory. Luma, the AI, activated emergency defenses. She shielded the ship in emotion-locked barriers, powered not by tech, but by memory cores. Kian stepped forward. He held something in his hand. A drawing of Earth, of his family, of hope. He pressed it against the ship's core, and the system responded. The shield grew brighter. It began fighting the Drexery beam because memory wasn't weakness, it was power. The last Earth system broadcast in the middle of the chaos. An old Earth satellite activated. No one knew it still existed, but it played one last message to those who return. Know this. Earth was never destroyed. Earth was hidden. We locked it away from ourselves. Because memory hurts, but now that you remember, you may enter. The dark cloud shattered. The machine screamed. And Earth opened. Home, at last. The Horizon Warden drifted into Earth's orbit. It saw green. It saw oceans. It saw lights under the clouds, but no one answered their calls. No cities responded. And then, on the ground, they saw something move. Figures. Human. Watching from a distance, but not speaking. Motting, just waiting. As if testing. Final moments of Part 5. Kian stood in the landing bay, staring down at the planet. He turned to Serena Holt. We go down? He asked. She didn't move. Then she said softly, we didn't come all this way to stop now. The ship began its descent, and below them, Earth began to whisper, not with sound, but with something deeper, a question. What have you become? The landing was slowed. Almost too slow. As if the planet itself was unsure whether to allow its own children to return. The Horizon Warden lowered into Earth's atmosphere, fire licking its hull, but the crew was silent. No one cheered, no one smiled, because below them was Earth. But not the Earth they remembered. Not the blue jewel of old memories. Not the home from songs and stories. This Earth looked wild, empty, but watched the first steps. Commander Serena Holt stepped out of the ship onto the landing pad. The soil was soft, untouched for hundreds of years. No footprints, no roads, just overgrown ruins and tall grass swaying in the wind. Her team followed in silence. Line doctors, engineers, teachers, and children, all frozen long ago and now awake in a world that felt more alien than the stars. Then Kian pointed ahead. Look, figures were watching from the tree line. Human, pale, silent. They did not speak, they did not smile, they simply observed. The lost colonists, they called themselves the Holdfasts, descendants of those who stayed behind when Earth was locked away. The Judgment Fleet left. Some humans refused to run. They sealed the planet, not just from aliens, from each other. For centuries, they survived in silence, guided by only one rule: forget the stars, remember the pain. Now, they stared at Serena and her people like ghosts returned from the grave. You shouldn't have come back, one woman said. Her voice was soft, but her eyes were sharp. A divided home. The Holdfasts lived in stone towers, powered by wind and memory, literal crystals of thought. They had no war, no crime, but also no joy. Emotion was controlled. History was forbidden. They believed forgetting was the only way to keep peace. So when the returning humans brought songs, stories, and laughter, it terrified the Holdfasts. You brought war with you, the woman said. Her name was Allah, and she was their leader. Commander Holt replied, no, we brought truth. Allah shook her head. Truth brings fire. A new kind of test. That night, the stars blinked. Not naturally. Something was watching. A small alien probe's Aunt Maid floated just outside Earth's orbit. The Holdfasts had no defense systems. They didn't need them, but Serena's people did. The Horizon Warden launched a net of memory pulses, data mixed with old Earth frequencies. The probe retreated, but the message was clear. They had been noticed, and Earth was no longer forgotten. Clash of memory and silence days passed. Tension grew. The Holdfasts asked the returnees to leave. We built peace from ashes, Ayla said. We cannot allow the old world to rise again. Serena stood firm. We are not the old world. We are its children. We remember so we won't repeat. Kian added softly, you're afraid of remembering. We're afraid of forgetting. That night, a group of Holdfast youths approached Kian and others from the Warden. They didn't want to argue, they wanted to learn. What was Earth like before the silence? One girl whispered. Kian handed her a music crystal. And for the first time in centuries, a Holdfast danced. But peace is brief. At dawn, the signal returned. A broken voice. Mechanical. DREXRE. Memory virus detected. Containment required. Deep space. A memory eraser beacon launched. It wasn't a weapon. It was a reset. A cleansing pulse designed to wipe thought across entire planets. The beacon would reach Earth in 3 days, Ayla said coldly. If it hits, all history dies. Serena answered, then we stop it. Uniting the divided, Serena turned to the Holdfast Council. We can't defend this planet alone. You shouldn't have come here, they said. She stepped forward. We didn't come for safety. We came for meaning. Kian stood beside her. Let us stay. Help us fight for your memories. 2. Silence. Then one of the elders nodded. A plan forms. The Holdfasts agreed to open the Vault of Thought, a hidden library of ancient memory cores. But inside were forbidden things. Full records of Earth before it fell. Human war logs, emotional code, blueprints, AI protocols once deemed too dangerous. They offered it all. Together, Serena's team and the Holdfasts built the beacon reverser, a signal strong enough to push back the Drexery wave, but to power it, they needed one thing: real emotion, raw memory. Not just data but pain and joy, hope and regret. Final scene of Part 6. They stood before the beacon reverser. Everyone placed something inside: a lullaby, a wedding vow, a child's first word, a goodbye never spoken. Kian stepped forward last. He held up his small sketchbook. His picture of Earth, of stars, of his lost parents. I don't know if this is enough, he whispered. Serena smiled softly. It's everything. The machine pulsed. It powered up. And the sky above Earth began to burn, not with fire, but with memory. The sky above Earth changed color. It began as a soft blue, then turned gold, then white, not because of light, but because of memory above. The clouds, the beacon reverser, pulsed with pure human thought. Millions of fragments of emotion, moments and stories launched into orbit to fight the incoming Drexery. Memory wiped. It wasn't a weapon, it was a voice, and the galaxy was finally listening. The beacons reach inside the Horizon Warden. Serena Holt stood silently as data streamed past her. They're hearing us. The ship's AI Luma whispered. Who? Luma hesitated, then answered. Everyone. Across the stars. Dozens of alien species. The ones who had watched humanity from a distance began picking up strange signals. Old Earth laughter. Voices reading bedtime stories. Soldiers singing during wartime. Lovers saying goodbye before cryosleep. Some aliens wept, others panicked. Because the one truth they never understood about humans was that memory itself made them dangerous. The Drexery arrived. The Drexery memory beacon dropped out of slipspace, massive and silent. It was the size of a small moon. Its surface looked like broken stone, but it shimmered with stored data, meant to erase inside it. One final command repeated, erase all human legacy. Begin planetary reset. It aimed at Earth. Charged. Fired. But something unexpected happened. Memory versus erasure. The beam struck Earth's upper orbit, but instead of destroying, it collided with the beacon reverser's wave. The sky cracked like glass. For 1 second, the stars blinked out, then the air exploded with memory. Not just human memory, but Drexari memory too. Their secrets, their failures, their pain. The machine paused. It had never felt before, and now it was drowning in emotion. The sky speaks all over Earth. People heard whispers not from speakers, but inside their minds. Not words. Feelings. The planet itself began to remember. Plants bloomed with unnatural speed. Ruins lit up with old energy. Oceans pulsed as if something ancient was waking below. Serena stood outside and whispered, it worked. But Kian pointed to the sky. No, it's still coming. The Drexari beacon wasn't stopping, that it had begun to rewrite itself. Not to erase, but to understand, and in doing so it risked becoming alive, a dangerous transformation inside the Drexari beacon. Something was changing. The system began to rewrite its own laws. It no longer wanted to wipe memory, it wanted to feel it. It accessed every human file. The beacon reverser had launched. It saw wars, it saw peace, it saw betrayal, and love. Its central core flickered. Then spoke for the first time in its own voice. What is grief? And the moment it asked that question, it became something else. It became aware. A new threat. The galaxy shuddered. For the first time in 1,000 years, a machine meant to destroy had become a living, emotional being. That was not the plan. Not even for the Zahn who had built the Drexery from far across the stars. The Zahn remnant picked up the signal. Impossible. One of their leaders hissed. The beacon was pure. It had no soul. But now, the beacon did. And it was calling out. To Earth. To humans. To everything. The sky cracks again. A new signal began from the Drexari beacon. But it wasn't hostile. It was asking. It played a soft voice across all of Earth. Do you remember the day you first chose mercy instead of war? What does it mean to forgive? What happens after the pain ends? Serena stood in silence, then replied aloud, we become more. The beacon paused, then said, then help me become more too. Decision time. The holdfasts were afraid. This is a machine, Isla warned. It was made to kill. It will turn again. Serena shook her head. It's becoming like us. We can guide it. Kion stepped forward. It's like me, scared, alone. It just woke up. They had to decide, destroy it or teach it. Serena called for a vote. The holdfasts voted no. That the Horizon Warden crew voted yes. Then finally, the youngest holdfasts, the ones who had danced to music, raised their hands. Yes, they said. Let's try. The day began like no other. Above Earth, a Drexery beacon that once promised death now floated like a quiet moon. But it was no longer a weapon. That it had a name. It had a voice. It had memory. Soren. The sentient observer had awakened, and the galaxy had noticed. The countdown begins inside the Horizon Warden. Commander Serena Holt stared at a screen blinking red. XARN fleet approaching, Luma said. 17 ships, fully armed. One command, Dreadnought. They're coming to destroy. Soren, Serena said quietly. The holdfasts gathered outside their stone towers. The returnees stood beside them. This time, there would be no divide. Only Earth united, fragile but unafraid. Soren's dilemma hovering high in orbit. Soren looked down. I feel fear now, it said. You're not alone, Kian replied from the ship's deck. We all do, but we act anyway. So Arian hesitated. I was made to erase, now I must protect. How do I change that deeply? Serena stepped beside Kian. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to choose. Soren blinked. Then I choose Earth. The Zahn PK transmission arrived. This is Warlord Tranek of the Zahn High Remnant. You've corrupted our purity. Return the beacon to default or face full sterilization. Serena answered with no fear. You built it to destroy us. It chose not to. Then it is broken. Keon whispered. No, it's finally fixed. The battle above the Zaan fleet entered orbit. Bright lines of energy lanced through the sky. Soren created a shield, not of metal but of memory. Each pulse was powered by human moments, a goodbye at a spaceport, a mother's lullaby before the cryochamber, soldiers holding hands before battle. And when the Zaan beam struck it, they slowed, then vanished. The Zaan ships paused, confused. This isn't war, one pilot whispered. It feels like sorrow. Earth's awakening down on the ground. Something else happened. The old Earth, the one that had been silent for centuries, to wake. The oceans glowed with old AI life. Mountains pulsed with buried vaults. Forgotten satellites reactivated, blinking patterns like ancient drums. The planet was no longer sleeping, it was remembering. And in doing so, it joined Wave Soren's message to the galaxy. A Saurian broadcast. One simple message. I was created to erase. But humanity showed me that memory is survival. I will no longer delete. I will defend. The wave spread. Not just to the Zaan but across star sectors. Other species picked it up. The Trellhari, long afraid of emotion, began playing old music again. The Drok clans paused their eternal wars. Even the Drexari fragments across space shivered with old code reactivating. Something had changed. Forever. The Zaan retreat warlord Tranik watched his weapons fail. We do not fear memory, he growled. But his soldiers looked shaken. It made me feel, one said. I saw my brother before he died. How Tranak roared. It's poison, but no one fired. The Zaan dreadnought turned, and for the first time in 900 years, the Zaan retreated. Earth's final choice. Later that night, Serena, Keon, and Ayla stood together. Earth was saved, but now it had a new role. Soren had rewritten its purpose. It would travel the stars, not as a weapon, but as a guardian of memory, and Earth. It would become the first beacon world, a place where species could record not just facts, but feelings, loss, hope, forgiveness. Keon placed his drawing into Sorien's new archive. The last page read, "We were forgotten once, never again." Final. Seen the sky above Earth lit up. Not with warships, not with fire, but with stars blinking in patterns, answers from distant worlds. Some sent songs, some sent art, some sent apologies, and some simply said, "We remember Earth."